Men used to be warriors. This is something that we hear so very often as men, and it's kind of a rebuke against the perception of modern men as being kind of soft and effeminate and kind of easily triggered snowflakes. But is this really an archetype, or is this really an ideal that we should be upholding for all men? Should we be striving towards being warriors? Now, in our understanding of masculinity, being a warrior is something like the gold standard. It's the cream of the crop. The manliest of men are warriors in one way or another. We see this in our movies like 300, war movies, even superhero movies to an extent are about showing this gold standard of masculinity through heroship, or rather heroics. I don't know why I couldn't think of the word there, heroics, and just decided to make up a word, heroship. Like, it worked, and I'm sure you understood what I meant, but I don't understand what happens to my brain sometimes. If you look at articles on, becoming a better man or becoming a masculine man, you're going to find articles like this one on the Good Men Project that I find by literally just typing in, men used to be warriors. And it was there, the 4 types of men, part 1, and the first archetype that they're going through is the warrior. The warrior is described as a classic archetype of masculinity. This is the tough guy, the stoic soldier, the fierce competitor, but it isn't all of us. And I think that is a very important thing to focus on, this idea that men used to be warriors. Well, yes, but certainly not all men. And I'm going to jump into this topic a little bit today and discuss it, because whilst I think warrior archetypes are something that men should be embodying, and that it might even be healthy to do so, it's certainly not something that all men can be, or even that all men should be or should want to be. Now, in my opinion, when people start saying, oh, men used to be warriors, first of all, as I said, it is a general rebuke against modern masculinity, or more specifically modern men, because modern men are viewed as being soft and effeminate, generally useless snowflakes who are easily triggered by everything. And this is a particularly funny thing to me, because if you kind of look back through history, what you'll find is literally every generation before thinks that about the generation that follows them. Perhaps with the exception of anyone that was kind of in the world wars range of time, for obvious reasons. But I do think that the men used to be warriors criticism is something that we can actually explore in a way that could be helpful towards modern men. Because whilst I don't necessarily think that it's saying that men used to be part of a standing army that would go to war, because that's just not true. Whilst every man would have kind of the ability to be conscripted, this wasn't the case for all men. Not all men were warriors, just all men were bound by the law that if the king or the head of state or the government said, we're going to war, we need you, that was kind of it. You didn't have much of a choice to be a warrior. You didn't have much of a chance to choose. You were it when they called you up. Some people chose, a lot of people didn't. That's how conscription works. But I think if we start to actually look at what this criticism is, that it's not necessarily saying that men just need to get drafted back into the military to toughen them up. It is talking more about men being physically and mentally tough. And to me, this is not a bad bit of advice. I do think that to an extent, we all need to work on being as tough as we possibly can be, both mentally and physically. For myself, I've noticed of late that I don't see myself being as tough mentally and physically as I would want to be. I know that I let myself make excuses. I know that I let myself get too comfortable. And that is something that over the last few months I've made an active effort to start pulling myself away from. Because I know that if I want to make moves in life, and that if I want to become a leader, and if I want to become a businessman, somebody that is respected, but also somebody that can respect himself, that is something that I need. I need a certain level of mental and physical toughness. And for the longest time, I have allowed myself to kind of get bogged down by things that happen to me. And by all rights, if bad things have happened to you, you have the right to feel shitty about them. But for myself, I am tired of being that way and I want to make a change. As men, I believe that we should be making an effort to be as tough as we possibly can be. That is both mental and physical toughness. Now, for some people, like your David Goggins types, that means that you should be working towards sharpening yourself to the finest of points, basically turning yourself into almost a weapon of a person. But I don't think that is most men. I think that is something that can be strived towards. I'm not so sure every man has it in them to do that. Every man has the potential, but I don't think every man has the drive to do it. Drive has to come from within. It's something that you have to develop. I think every man has the potential to be a fucking superhero. It's drive that stops us from getting there in terms of the things that we can control, at least. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be making an effort to be as tough and resilient as we possibly can do, because we are going to need that to weather the storms of life as men. And if every single time something a little bit negative happens to you, you fall on your back and cry, that's not going to get you to where you need to be in life. By all means, when shitty things happen to you, give yourself the time to feel bad about them. But after a good amount of time, when you are ready, you have to say to yourself, right, that's enough. I've got to move on. I can't spend my life like this. That's the situation where I'm at right now. I had a lot of bad shit that happened to me when I was a child, and I've let it hold me back for a very, very long time. And I'm tired of that. I've given myself time to feel what I felt. I've gone and spoken to therapists. I've spoken to friends about it. I'm not going to be able to change what happened to me. So it's time for me to just crack on and make something of myself in spite of all the bad shit that happened. But what's important to know is that toughness and resilience is a weapon. It is something that should be cared for. It's something that should be practiced with. It is something that should be honed. It's something that should be sharpened. But it is not the full set of armor. It is not everything that you need. You know, sometimes you have to put it away in order to get on with other areas of your life. You can't just be a tough guy for literally everything. This is something that I'm a firm believer in. When it comes to stuff like mental and physical toughness, if you just use that as a complete set of armor, then sure, you're probably not going to get hurt, but you're also not going to let anyone into your life, and that is a dimension of life that everyone needs. You need to have people around you, community, support, people who love you. So that's why I say that physical and mental toughness is a weapon, like a sword, but it's not something that you carry all the time. It's something that you have. It's something that it should be at the ready for you to use, but it is not the entire set of armor. So yes, men should be warriors, or at least men should try and embody the archetype of the warrior. Practice it. Make it a part of you, but don't make it all of you. It can't be all of you. We are not just one archetype. We are a complex amalgamation of dozens of them. Being a warrior is something that you should be working to get good at. It's something that I'm working to get good at, but it's not the whole picture, and nor should it be. So find a way every single day to get a little bit of practice in, of getting mentally and physically tough in one way or another. There are endless amounts of ways to do this, to harden yourself, to harden your mind for when bad things come, because they will, and you need to know how to deal with them. And that's all I've got to say on this subject, so I'll see you in the next video.